Welcome to Season 3 of the Knack for Business podcast. Over 390 episodes strong, we're here to ignite your entrepreneurial spirit with fresh insights, networking gems, and creative strategies that elevate your game.
Question for the audience: how can you free up your time, pay your team better, and still grow your profits 5 times without burning out? And that's exactly what Bond will talk about on this episode. Our guest today is Bond Aster from Value Logic Solutions. Bond is a seasoned business advisor with over 35 years' experience guiding everyone from small private firms to global corporations and non-for-profits. Based in the beautiful Pacific Northwest, Bond is not only a champion of personal growth and leadership development, but also a powerhouse of business results. At Optiva, he helped drive revenue from $500,000 to $45 million. At Intermec, he introduced a handheld computer that hit $100 million in annual sales. And at Novometric, he led a 28-person research team shaping cutting-edge respiratory care products. With a PhD in physics from the University of Washington and a project management professional certificate from PMI, Bond blends sharp technical expertise with a passion for empowering leaders, all while giving through volunteer work with Cancer Lifeline and Friends of Youth. Absolutely welcome to have you here, sir. It's a pleasure. And perhaps you can tell us, who is your favorite hero?
My favorite hero is Bilbo Baggins. I love The Lord of the Rings. I'm really glad they made it into a movie series, and I've watched it a number of times and read the books many times.
I remember reading that in high school growing up and going, that was a bit of a monster book, but it was a good story, and I really appreciated the series. What's your business tagline?
Let us help you take your business to the next level, and do that by helping your business to run in a healthy way that's healthy for your employees and the owner, and doing that by de-stressing your business. Stress is the biggest cause of lack of health. So we help reduce stress to maximize health for owners and employees.
One thing that we find a lot of our solopreneurs is they feel the time the business owns them, and they're putting in 60, 70, 80 hours a week. They don't know their family. They don't know their kids. You have a solution. Tell us a story.
Okay. I'm going to start with who I am, where I am, and what I do. I'm in Seattle, Washington. It's where I grew up, got my PhD, worked for many years. I really care about the world. I prioritize loving relationships. My fiance, my kids, and my grandkids, those are my priorities. And I care about the world. And I want to help the world to be a more peaceful, loving, kind, happy, and fulfilling place. If I can help businesses run in a way that's healthier, it will contribute to the world being a healthier, happier place. That's why I'm in business.
So when you're working with a business and you're helping them develop their leadership process, how do you want them to engage? Do you want them engaged like a drill instructor, or do you want them engaged like a Buddhist monk, or is there a kind of mid-ground that's a harmonized space for them to work with?
That has to do with how to do anything most effectively. And having managed hundreds of products over 40 years, developing them from concept into production and taking some to put them to rest at the end of their life. Managing projects, what I found works best is the people on the project is the key. Who are they and how do they work together and how do they collaborate best? And that is 40 years of experience that is summarized in the book I'm reading right now, which is Trust and Inspire by Stephen Covey. And it talks about how the business world is shifting and our culture is shifting, and it doesn't work to run businesses in a command control way anymore. And I have run my departments and my businesses from a trust and inspire standpoint throughout my career. It's been unusual. Now it's becoming a little more common, but it's definitely much more called for. That's how I work with my staff. I have over 50 experts in business that work for me. I bring in to help my clients. That's how I work with them, and that's how I work with my clients. How can I support my client in a way for them to step into what they're really good at and what they do well? And how can I help them along that path? It's not to tell them what to do or to say, you got to do this and this, and then the next thing, and basically push them through the process. I grew up in the command control environment. I've worked in that environment. And as much as I have been in trust and inspire more than most businesses, I still find myself occasionally getting stuck in that or acting out of command control. One of the keys to that is I tell my clients and my staff, if you catch me doing that, please let me know right away. You will not get punished for that. It will not be a problem. I want to know if I'm not being clear and if I'm not supporting and I'm not creating an empowerment environment for my clients and my staff.
You make a point to talk about a way to double your employees' pay and make more money. And that seems like it's antithetical. Tell us how that story
Seems
works.
like an oxymoron.
It does, but you have a solution.
Yes, I do. 30 years ago, I was working as a research and development manager at a barcode company, Intermec. I went into a client and I saw the way they were running their production. They were paying their workers double industry standard, and yet their productivity and profits were 5 times greater than industry standard. And so I said, how do you do this? And so I learned the system they use, and I've been using that system ever since. I had a client 7 or 8 years ago that was working 80-hour weeks. His company was tripling in size every year in revenue and profits. It was him and a few contractors. And when I met him, he said, I'm working too many hours. I'm burning out. I just want to sell my company. And I said, I can help you structure your company for sale, but right now it's not sellable because it's too small. You don't have any employees. You're the whole company. So we've got to work you out of the company in order to sell it. That'll take some time. Could be as much as a couple of years to restructure the whole company, but it'll get better along the way. You won't be working as much as we move along that path. And he said, whatever it takes, let's just get there. He hired me. So I helped him hire a sales manager and train him. I helped him hire an operations manager and train him. And I helped him hire some full-time employees, got them all trained. A year into the process, he said, I've got a chance to go to Thailand for 6 weeks, but I haven't gone on a vacation since I started this company 4 years ago. I'm really nervous about taking off. I said, I think we'll be fine. I'll work with your sales guy, your ops guy, and we'll have things running. We'll reach out to you. He went away for 6 weeks. We never had to reach out to him. While he was gone, I worked with a sales guy to close the biggest deal in company history, huge client. He came back and he said, what's wrong? I never heard from you. Would communications bad? And I said, no, it's no problem. Things are running good. Signed a big client. Guess what? We're ready to sell the business now. And he said, why would I want to sell the business? It's running itself. He didn't need to do anything anymore. Profits had tripled again. Revenues had tripled again. And now the company was running itself using systems like the employee wage bonus system that I learned at this company 40 years ago. However, in implementing that, it has always been customized for each client, and I didn't have a step-by-step process for implementing it. A couple of years ago, I met somebody from UK who had developed a system that consistently gets 5 times increase in productivity. And a piece of it is using that wage bonus system. But the system that I'm using, the 5 times productivity system developed in Europe, is a step-by-step process that has consistently increased productivity by at least a factor of 5 within a year and a half. For all the companies that have been applied to in Europe, I brought it into the United States last summer, and my first client's 9 months into it and making very good progress. towards that year and a half. That client, when I introduced the system last August, was working 70-hour weeks. He had grown from just himself painting houses to 9 painters and 3 leads working for him. He fired his marketing company because he couldn't handle any more business because he was overwhelmed by the work he was already getting. He had a system to track his project expenses, and it was broken because once he got over about 4 employees, it wasn't designed to work bigger than that. So he couldn't track his expenses. So we came in and fixed his system so he had a spreadsheet to track his expenses weekly. We came in and started training one of his leads to be a project manager and take over some of the work for the owner to free up his time. About 3 months ago, about 5 months into the process, he called me up and he said, I got a problem. And I said, that's what we're here for, is to help you with the problems. What's your problem? Here's my problem. What do I do with all my spare time? He had been working 70 and 80-hour weeks last summer. Now he wants to know, what does he do with his spare time? And I said, here's what you do. You start marketing again. Let's look at bringing in more business because now you can handle it. That's 5 months into a year and a half in the productivity system. Now we're working on the bonus system to start paying his employees bonuses and start increasing their wages so that they will be paid double by the time the system's fully implemented. And the way it works is the employees get paid bonuses when they increase their productivity. If the employees get their job done 10% faster, then they get a 10% increase in their hourly wage. So the faster they go, the more they get paid. The first step in the program, implemented with the employees, is tracking back the previous year. What was the revenue produced per full-time employee? That is the measuring stick that we drive the system to. We get a baseline off of what has it been, how many thousands of dollars per employee or tens of thousands per employee is produced. And we want to drive that productivity to increase that at least a factor of 5. So if you're doing $10,000 per employee, we want to get it to $50,000 an employee. And that's what the system will drive step by step. The first step is look at what the baseline revenue for employee is. The second step is to analyze the quality control system of the company and make sure there are quality standards in place. You have to have a good quality system, because if you start driving productivity without good quality, what you're going to drive is much more productivity, but lower quality. And then it'll bite you in the end because your business will suffer for it. You've got to maintain quality standards. And the bonuses to the employees will only be paid when the quality standards are maintained. So that's the basis of the system. And there's step-by-step process to go through each step over a year and a half, one employee at a time, to start implementing the system until every employee in the company is being paid a bonus for the productivity they deliver. And they deliver that productivity, which delivers increased profits to the company, and then they get a percent of the increased profits. So the company gets its profits first. It's going to increase the profits. That's where you get the 5 times increase in profits. The more the employees increase the profits of the company, the more they get paid. That's how they get increased pay. And it's driven, all of the companies have used it to pay the employees at least double by the time the system was implemented. And typically it's 5 times increase in net profits. It's always been at least 5 times increase in productivity. And the exact net profit increase depends on the initial net profit level and what portion of profits are due to labor, what your labor rate is. But it's been in the range of 3 to 5, typically 5 times increase in profit for the company. So the way it works is, if the company's more productive, higher productivity, then you can actually pay your workers more and still have increased profits. And the bigger advantage is, once that's done, the employees are empowered. in the system. They design their own job, basically drive profits for their profit center and for the company. The owner is no longer managing those employees. They are self-managed. So that frees the owner's time to be able to focus on being an entrepreneur, if that's what they want to do. Or like the client I had that was burnt out, that just wanted to take a vacation and get away from the business, they can let the business run itself. Typical clients I'm implementing the system with, once it's implemented, they want me to help them set up a entrepreneurial division that they run. The system is running the operations of the company, producing increased profits, growing, and run by the employees. The owner is now running an entrepreneurial division, developing new products, new geographies, new ideas, funded by the main operations of the company. If that division doesn't make any money or loses money, it's not a problem. The main company is continuing to generate revenues. That's the way the system works once it's fully implemented, and that frees up time of the owner to spend time with family and friends, take vacations, or expand the business by trying new ideas and new markets.
When you're paying the employees more, I get that piece. Does that also cover off? Because at a certain point in time, you can pay people, if you have a car, an 8-cylinder, and you're running always at 100, 200 miles an hour, or you're running flat out all the time. At a certain point in time, the motor's going to give up. It might last depending who makes it. But that said, do you also balance in then time off, benefits? Is that part of the incentivizing? And then does overtime come in and you have surge demand for a product? In other words, there's not enough demand to hire another shift or another person yet, right? But you might have surge demand. Do you find then that overtime comes into play? Is too much overtime a causal factor for a reduction in production or reduction in quality? Are these factors?
Yeah, you better stop there. You asked a lot, but I can answer that. Everything you asked is couched in the command control type of running a business. This is not a command control business. This is designed to be a trust and inspire business. The last part about overtime is each employee is running their own business within the business, so they determine how much time they work. Going back to the beginning of the engine analogy, the problem with a car and an engine is you're driving a car. The car is a tool. You step on the gas, the engine runs. If you overdrive the engine, you're going to burn it out. The driver is commanding and controlling the car. People are not things. People are not cars. They don't work well when they're in that environment, when they have to work overtime, when they're driven, when they're pushed, when they are incentivized, it doesn't work. That's not how this system works. No one is managing any of these employees. There are no managers managing the employees. They're all self-managed. And they go as fast as they want to go. If they want to make more money, they'll go faster. If they want to work half-time, but get paid for full-time, they can still get paid as a full-time job because they're making double the wages. So if they work half a month, they'll get paid a full month's salary and they take the rest off. Doesn't matter. They set it up any way they want it. My client asked me, how do you facilitate collaboration? He said, I just want my employees to collaborate with each other. He's trying to structure systems to encourage and force collaboration. It doesn't work. But if you create a self-empowerment system that rewards collaboration, it will happen because it's in each of the employees' personal, it benefits them personally. It's in their own self-interest to work with other employees. Because if they collaborate with each other, they're each going to be able to work less and get more done, deliver more. And so it's easier for everyone. The whole group can work together in a way that produces more than individuals. And you don't try to, the owner and I, as a person implementing the system, don't try to help the employees. We give them the resources that they need. We support them in the ways that they need support. If they have questions, we certainly answer them and help them. But we don't drive it. They ask for the questions, they ask for the help, and we give it to them as needed. Did that answer the question?
Perfect. Yes. And in fact, I wholeheartedly agree with let them learn the entrepreneurial business piece, because you can take on as much for fire hose as you want or not,
Yep.
and you
Yep.
pace it.
That's right. We find there are some employees that they're young, they want to make a lot of money, and they're already working in companies where they're rock stars. They're working really hard. They're the best employee in the company. They're twice as productive as any other employee for a while. But after a while, what they find is they're not paid anymore for it. They're not rewarded for it. There are people who are dragging them down, slowing them down in the company, the other employees. And after a while, they kind of give up and say, what's the point? This system rewards them. Those people will really excel in this system, and they'll finally be rewarded for what they're already doing. In a given company, if you have 50 employees, about 7 of the 50 employees are going to be those kind of rock stars. You don't have to manage them. You just give them what they need and go look for work, and they'll do it effectively. And 7 of the employees, no matter what you do, no matter how much training you give them, how much support you give them, they're never going to get it. And they're going to drag down everyone else. And the rest of the company, the other 36 employees, are going to be in the middle. They'll do a pretty good job. If you give them support and help, they'll do better, but they're not going to be natural rock stars. So what this system does is it identifies the employees that are dragging the system down, don't fit, or it's not working in this case. It allows the owners to talk with the employees, identify them and say, hey, this just is not working. And it's better for the company and the people because they kind of know it's not working very well. They're better off to go somewhere else. That's a small percentage of the company, like 7 out of 50, 14% for that size company. The majority of people, we work with them to help implement the system that rewards when they do better and provide the resources they need in order to do better, answer their questions, support them, to train them to use the system and become rock stars.
How do you plug in whether someone who comes to you can benefit from your system? How long does the process take? And how do they know they can get to the next step? How does this process work?
So what's the first part of how do I know if they're a good fit for the system?
Yeah.
When the system is implemented, the company is going to run itself. The employees are going to be self-managed. So the owner has to be willing to give up that control, has to see the benefit. And that's not always easy to do. And we can help, but if they aren't ready to do that and aren't willing to have the company run itself, then that's not going to work. What's common is they want to, they think they are, but it's not easy to do, so they need help. That's the kind of company that we want to work with, where they say, yeah, I really want to get there. I just need some help getting there. And also, even if they want to get there, even if they read, trust, and inspire and start using the system there to implement it, they don't have this systematic step-by-step process that helps them go through this transition from command and control into trust and inspire. This process is one step at a time, and it really helps the owner. They have to have a commitment to do it, but once they do, we can help them through every step of the process and make it much more likely to succeed and get the best results in the end.
The whole system right now, when a company comes to you and say, listen, I want to tweak it. I want to take more time for myself. I'm running myself ragged. Are there other aspects of the business you look at? Do you look at their pricing model? Do you look at who their marketplace is? Are they in a good market fit? Are those other elements that you incorporate into your program?
What's needed is dependent on the size of the company. I start working with companies at $100,000 a year in revenue that are solopreneurs. If they're smaller than that, it's hard to hire my staff and bring in my systems. From 100,000 to about $1 million in revenue, the primary focus for companies is sales. They need more sales. That's the most important thing, especially 100,000 to 300,000 or 400,000. But even up to $1 million, still sales, developing sales process, driving lead generation, driving sales is the most important thing. Companies under $1 million should be spending 80% of their time in revenue generating activities. That means activities that lead to a sale, working with a lead, developing key relationships. One distraction is managing employees. If we can implement the productivity system once they start hiring employees, they don't have to worry about the operations of the company. They can focus on sales, which is what's really needed for that kind of company. And what we do for companies of that size, particularly, but any size company, I have a group sales and marketing team that focuses on sales automation, AI, and lead generation. And we will come in and do a productivity audit with the client and determine where we can streamline the sales and marketing process, and do a quick 5 or 10 minute audit like I just did with a new client I signed May 1st earlier this month. We came in and brought the team in. In 10 minutes, we did an audit. It's a company at $100,000 a year with one employee, and determined that the client was leaving $9,000 a month in lost revenue because of follow-ups with leads. And so we're in the process now of automating this lead follow-up system so he doesn't miss those leads, so we can capture a majority of that 9,000, double his revenue, basically. The way I work with all my clients is I have a basic monthly fee that fits their budget that I use to pay the experts when I bring in the sales and marketing team to implement the systems. And then I make my money off of the net profits that I deliver to my clients, like when we capture leads that they would have lost, or we generate new leads that then leads to close business and increase profits for the company. I'll take a % of the increased profits that we are delivering they wouldn't have gotten without us. That's true for the sales and marketing system as well as the productivity system. Without our system, they're not going to get those kind of increases in productivity and profits. We'll take a portion of those productivity and profits and make sure they're getting at least 100% return on investment off that monthly fee within a year. And I'm able to do that consistently with my clients 100%. And I've even had clients where I've delivered 500% in a couple months, or within 6 months, and some 500% over years, but at least 100% within a year. Streamlining sales and marketing is another area. In terms of increasing profits, the most powerful, simple thing is to adjust prices accordingly to get the right price as the average perceived value of the product or service of my client. What's the average perceived value of their clients for their product or service? That's the right price. And my system will systematically find what that is for any product or service in the world. And what I found is the biggest barrier to that is business owners are afraid to increase prices because they'll lose clients. In fact, what I found with the system is 100% of the products and services I've applied the system to have been underpriced. And so they don't lose clients when they increase the prices because they're not charging enough. When they increase prices, they actually increase their number of clients, because if you charge too little for any product or service, you'll lose clients. Clients perceive it as cheap or low quality. About a third of the products and services I apply it to are in that category. In those categories, I've often been able to double, triple, and quadruple prices and yet increase the number of clients at the same time.
You found a way to put systems in place and automate some things, and yet have a very high-touch environment. Tell me how that works.
So even the sales and marketing system has AI built into it for automation. The idea is to do automated follow-up, but the AI doesn't interact directly with the client. It just helps facilitate connection between the lead and the owner of the company or whoever's doing the sales. One of the major misuses of AI in the last few years is having it do too much, having it take over too much of the job. It works well as a guide, as a starting point, as doing research, as generating ideas. But then a human needs to look at that and make sure it makes sense. And then also make sure that you have continued interaction between team members, employees, between the owner of the employees, and also between the business and the clients. It does not help to have big businesses where I call a number and interact 100% with AI. That does not work well, and that's not the kind of systems I implement. There's an initial interaction with AI, and that directs the person who's looking for help to a person that can help them. And that person, I'll give you an example. I was calling my bank the other day. They wanted my account number and my PIN. Well, I didn't have my PIN. I couldn't talk to anyone unless I entered that PIN. So I found another number where I could talk to a person. If you have good AI, the AI is going to say, you're going to say, I don't have the PIN. Okay, let me connect you. Let me find another way for you to get into the system. Then let me get you to the right person that you need to talk to. And that's what the AI should be helping with. Get to the person you need to talk to and automate the process for talking to the right person. That's what our streamlined sales and marketing system does. Good AI and automation, get people connected and people doing what they do well.
At the end of the day, what's the number one piece of advice you give to a founder to have success and a good relationship, good results, good productivity, and to situate themselves, other than calling you?
Talk to somebody who they trust and talk it through that person. And certainly I'm available to talk with someone, do a complimentary assessment, no charge, to talk through what's causing them stress, what is not working well in the business, walk them through it, and tell them some specific things about their business that they might be able to do to help things flow a bit better. Talk to somebody who knows, who has the experience, someone like me that's spent 40 years, worked with hundreds of businesses, knows what works in business. Most founders are experts in what they do. If they make hats, they know how to make hats. If they market, they know how to market. If they sell financial services, they really understand those. That doesn't necessarily mean they understand how to run a business. You need someone that has experience in that. So talk with someone that has experience and really knows how to run a business. I've even worked with clients who have started a business, grown a business, been successful, sold it, started another business, but the next time they grow it, they find that what they learned from the first time is not directly applicable to the second time, because every business is different. And so I'm able to help people who have worked with multiple businesses, multiple kinds of businesses can be really helpful. So talk to someone like that, get advice. Don't try to do it all on your own. That would be the main advice that I would give.
Is there a geography or a demographic that you'd like to work with mostly? And if so, how do we get a hold of you?
I work all over the United States. I also work in foreign countries as needed, but preferably in the United States. I'm on the West Coast, so I can work with companies anywhere, but a little closer time zone on the West Coast. My website, email address, and phone are attached to this podcast. There's also a Calendly link for a half an hour complimentary assessment. You want to schedule a time, ask questions, anything I can help with, I'm happy to do that at no cost. Just schedule a time with me and I will give you tips to help run your business better. I did a 15-minute consultation with somebody probably 7 or 8 years ago. And 3 years later, I was in BNI, and that person was in my BNI chapter. 3 years later, I joined a chapter, and here's this person that I had talked to 3 years before. She stood in front of the chapter and said, I talked to Bond 3 years ago. He spent 15 minutes with me. That has driven my business for the last 3 years. What he told me in 15 minutes about my business has helped me to grow for the last 3 years. Schedule a half-hour call. I will help you in whatever way I can. I give you some ideas that will help you run your business better. Every business is different, and it depends on what your particular stresses and issues are as to how I can help you.
I want to say thank you to Bond Aster, Wayne Pratt, and you, the Knack for Business listeners. This is a really interesting conversation on how to make the best out of your workplace and success. Bond works with transforming your business, not just your balance sheet, but lives of the people around you, helping the founders reclaim their family time, reward the teams better, and build companies that thrive. You don't have to be the micromanager always sitting there monitoring the dashboard. You can chill and relax, trust the people.
To reach the podcast hosts, email them at info@creativeinsight.com or by the website creativeinsight.com, spelled KREATIVINSIGHT.com. To reach Wayne at his email, wayne@motive8u.ca, that is MOTIVE, the numeral 8 and the letter u.ca, or his website, motive8u.ca. If you would like to be a guest on this podcast and share your knowledge, let us know. We would also appreciate your feedback on the content or format. Check the show notes for more details. For these podcasts, we like to acknowledge the support and thanks to the following people: Carl Richards from Podcast Solutions Made Simple, a renowned podcast expert; Fred Crouch, who is the Property Wizard podcaster, where Bernie is a co-host; Jovan Strika from At Hive, a co-working space that is more than just a space; then Melanie Weber, Bernie's invaluable business partner; and Wayne Pratt from Motive 8U Inc., who serves as both a coach and co-host of these podcasts. Disclaimer. Please note that the Knack for Business podcast episodes are meant solely for educational and general informational purposes. The information and opinions contained within are not intended to be professional advice on any subject matter. The thoughts, views, and opinions expressed by the participants are their own personal beliefs and do not represent the views of the podcast hosts or any affiliated organizations. It is important to note that this podcast is not a replacement for consulting with certified experts in your area who possess knowledge of your unique situation. The hosts of the podcast, along with any participants or affiliated groups, do not take responsibility for any actions taken or not taken based on the information presented in this episode. It is highly recommended that individuals seek guidance from their own personal advisors in fields such as accounting, law, or other pertinent areas prior to undertaking any actions or making decisions that may impact their financial, legal, or other aspects of life.